Some secrets are like anchors dragging you under with every breath you take. They settle deep in your soul, heavy and unyielding, reshaping the contours of your life. This is the story of one summer, the summer I turned 24, when everything I thought I knew about myself, about family, about love, unraveled in ways I never could have predicted. My name is Elliot, and for 11 years, I've carried a secret that altered the course of my existence. It's about my cousin Nathan, about what happened between us during those salty, sun-drenched weeks at our aunt's beach house in Maine. We swore we'd never speak of it. We vowed to bury it beneath the sand and let the tides wash it away. But some things are too profound to erase, no matter how fiercely you try. This is that story. And maybe, just maybe, telling it will help me understand what it all meant. The tires of my rented Jeep crunched against the oyster-shell driveway as I pulled up to Aunt Clara's beach house. The Atlantic stretched out before me, a restless expanse of gray-blue under a late June sky. The house itself, a weathered shingle-style cottage with wraparound porches and faded teal shutters, looked exactly as I remembered it from childhood. The same crooked weather vane spun lazily atop the roof. The same Adirondack chairs, paint-chipped and salt-worn, sat sentinel on the widow's walk. But I was no longer the awkward 13-year-old who'd last set foot here. I was 24 now, a man who'd spent years piecing together who I was. Coming out at 20 had been a jagged, exhilarating leap. My mother cried, my sister cheered, and my father nodded silently, his discomfort palpable but unspoken. The family reunion was Aunt Clara's doing. "She's turning 80, my mother had said, her voice crackling over the phone from Boston. She wants all her nieces and nephews under one roof, one last time. How could I refuse? I hauled my backpack from the trunk, the weight of it nothing compared to the secret I carried. The screen door creaked open before I reached the porch, and there was Aunt Clara, smaller than memory allowed, her silver hair pulled into a loose bun, her eyes sharp as sea glass. "Elliot, my darling." She enveloped me in a hug that smelled of salt air and rose water, the scent of every summer I'd ever known. "Look at you, tall and handsome, just like your uncle used to be." "Hey, Aunt Clara." I kissed her weathered cheek. "The place hasn't changed a bit. Why mess with perfection?" She winked, ushering me inside. "Lemonade's on the counter. Your parents won't be here until tomorrow, but..." Her smile faltered just for a moment. "Nathan arrived this morning." My heart lurched. Nathan. I hadn't seen him since that summer 11 years ago. We'd mastered the art of avoidance. Convenient excuses, last-minute cancellations, anything to keep us from sharing the same air. "He's here?" I kept my voice neutral, but my palms were already sweating. "Down by the tide pools, sketching. You know how he is." Aunt Clara's gaze lingered on me, piercing and knowing. "You two were thick as thieves once. What happened?" "We grew up," I said, the half-truth bitter on my tongue. "People drift." She didn't buy it, but she let it go. "Go find him. The tide's low, perfect for exploring." I found him crouched near the tide pools, his sketchbook balanced on one knee, a pencil moving in quick, precise strokes. Nathan had changed. The gangly boy I remembered had become a man, lean but strong, his forearms corded from years of hauling fishing nets with his dad's crew. His auburn hair was longer, tied back in a messy knot, and his skin was bronzed from hours under the sun. He wore a faded flannel, sleeves rolled to the elbow, and even from a distance he exuded a quiet intensity. He sensed me before I spoke, his shoulders stiffening. "Aunt Clara send you?" His voice was deeper now, roughened by salt and time. "She said you were here." I stopped a few feet away, unsure. "I can leave if you want." "No." He turned and our eyes locked. Those hazel eyes, green shot through with gold, were unchanged, but they carried a wariness I didn't remember. "We'll be stuck together all week. Might as well rip the Band-Aid off." "Right." I sat on a nearby rock, keeping the tide pool between us like a buffer. "How's life?" "Good. I'm a marine biologist now. Field work mostly, tagging seals, studying tide patterns." He gestured at the sketchbook, where a detailed drawing of a starfish took shape. This is just a hobby. It's incredible. The compliment slipped out, and I cursed myself as a flush crept up my neck. I mean, you're talented. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Thanks. Mom says you're a graphic designer now. Freelancing. Yeah, second year on my own. I traced a crack in the rock with my finger, avoiding his gaze. It's freedom and chaos in equal parts. And you're out, living your truth. His tone was careful, probing. You heard. I glanced at him, surprised. Family gossip, huh? Mom mentioned it a while back. He set the sketchbook down, pulling his knees up. I'm happy for you, Elliot. That you're... you. The sincerity in his voice cracked something open inside me. Are you happy? He stared at the tide pool where a crab scuttled beneath a veil of seaweed. I'm getting there. The weight in his words hung between us, heavy as the fog rolling in from the horizon. Silence stretched, thick with everything we weren't saying. Nathan, we should head back, he cut in, standing abruptly. Aunt Clara's making chowder. You know she hates latecomers. He offered his hand out of habit, the way he had when we were kids racing to the water. I hesitated, staring at his calloused palm, then took it. The moment our skin touched, a jolt shot through me. His eyes widened, and I knew he felt it too. We let go quickly, but the air crackled with the past we'd tried to drown. Dinner was a performance. Aunt Clara spun tales of her girlhood, smuggling lobsters with her brothers, dancing at clam bakes under paper lanterns. Nathan and I played our parts, nodding and laughing, but I was hyper-aware of him. The way he cradled his chowder spoon, the way his laugh rumbled low when Aunt Clara described her first kiss. It was maddening, this pull toward him, like the tide itself tugging at my ankles. After dinner, Aunt Clara shooed us out. Go walk the beach. I'm turning in early. Big day tomorrow with the whole clan. We stood on the porch, the sky bleeding into twilight, the ocean a restless murmur below. Fireflies flickered in the dune grass, and the air smelled of salt and pine. Remember catching these? Nathan said, nodding at the glowing bugs. Aunt Clara made us release them, said they had families to get back to. She's a sap, I said, smiling despite myself. He leaned against the railing, the fading light carving shadows across his face. Walk with me? Every instinct screamed danger, but I nodded. We followed the sandy path to the shore, our footsteps falling into the old rhythm of childhood adventures. The path was narrower now, choked with beach roses, forcing us closer than I trusted myself to be. Our shoulders brushed, and each contact sent a spark through me. I've thought about that summer, Nathan said suddenly, stopping near a cluster of driftwood. My breath caught. I know we said we'd never talk about it, but... I've thought about that summer, Nathan said suddenly, stopping near a cluster of driftwood. My breath caught. I know we said we'd never talk about it, but, Nathan, we can't. My voice was sharper than I meant. Why not? He faced me, eyes blazing in the dusk. We were kids, Elliot. Confused, curious, figuring ourselves out. But we've let it ruin us. 11 years of avoiding each other because we were too scared to face it. Scared of what? My pulse thundered. Admitting we did something wrong? Something we can't take back? Or admitting we felt something? His voice was low, urgent. Because I've spent years trying to decide which one keeps me up at night. My throat tightened. What do you want from me? The truth. He stepped closer, close enough that I smelled salt and cedar on him. Did it mean anything to you? What we did? I wanted to bolt, to laugh it off, to rebuild the fortress we'd spent a decade constructing. But under the deepening sky, with the waves crashing and Nathan's gaze stripping me bare, I couldn't lie. It meant everything, I whispered. It was the first time I knew who I was. You made me feel real, even if we didn't understand it then. He exhaled, shaky, like he'd been holding that breath since we were 13. I thought I was alone in it. I thought you hated me for it. Hate you? I laughed, the sound raw. Nathan, I've spent 11 years trying not to think about you. trying to forget how it felt to be known, to not be the only one carrying this. You're not alone now. His hand hovered near my arm, hesitating. Elliot, I need to tell you something. Something I've been too coward to say. What? My voice was barely a breath. That summer broke me open. After you left, I tried to be what everyone expected. Dated girls, played hockey, joined my dad's fishing crew. But I couldn't stop thinking about you, about us, about what it meant. His voice cracked. I came out to my parents last year. I've been in therapy, untangling it all, and every time it comes back to you, to how you were the first person who saw me. Tears stung my eyes. Nathan, we're cousins. It's impossible. The family would, I know. His voice broke. I know it's wrong to them. I know it's messy. But what I feel, it's not going away. I've tried, the world tilted. Everything I'd buried, every stolen glance, every forbidden memory surged to the surface. We weren't kids anymore, fumbling in the dark. We were men, standing at the edge of something vast and terrifying. What do you want? I asked, my voice trembling. I want to stop running. I want to understand this with you, the only person who ever got it. His hand found mine, fingers lacing together. I want to stop pretending you don't matter. His touch was a lifeline and a landmine. This is insane, I breathed. We could destroy everything. I know. His thumb brushed my knuckles. But I don't want to let go. In the starlit dark, he smiled, a real, unguarded smile I hadn't seen in years. Then don't. We walked the beach until the moon hung high, sitting on a weathered log bleached white by the sun. Our hands stayed clasped, and we talked, really talked for the first time in over a decade. Nathan told me about his struggle, the girls he'd tried to love, the panic attacks on fishing boats when he couldn't breathe past the lie, the night he told his parents and his mother cried while his father stared at the floor. I shared my own path, coming out to my college roommate over cheap beer, the first pride parade where I held a stranger's hand and felt both free and fraudulent, the string of boyfriends who never quite measured up to a memory I wouldn't name. Did you ever think of me? Nathan asked, his voice soft. When you were figuring it out? Constantly. I couldn't look at him. You were my benchmark. Every guy I dated I compared to you, to that summer, to how it felt to be understood. I've never dated, he admitted. Not really. I told myself I was waiting, but... He met my eyes, moonlight glinting in them. No one was you, my heart stuttered. Nathan, we have to be careful. We're first cousins. It's legal in some places, but the family, society, I know. He squeezed my hand. But this is real. What I feel is real. What do we do with it? For now? I swallowed hard. We don't hide it from each other. We talk. We figure it out one step at a time. He nodded and we sat there until the tide crept closer, lapping at the log. The ease of our childhood returned, but it was laced with something new, something electric and fragile. Every glance, every brush of our knees carried a promise and a warning. Morning came with the cry of gulls and Aunt Clara's voice calling us to breakfast. I'd barely slept, my mind replaying Nathan's words, his touch. The reality of it felt fragile in the harsh light of day. Had we really bared our souls? Had I agreed to this? Nathan was already at the table, his smile soft but guarded as I entered. Morning, sleepyhead, Aunt Clara teased, sliding a plate of blueberry muffins my way. You two were out late. Catching up? Just like old times, Nathan said, his foot nudging mine under the table. The contact sent a shiver up my spine. Good, Aunt Clara said, oblivious. Family should stick close. Your parents arrive at noon, Elliot. Nathan, your folks and the Thompsons come tonight. Tomorrow the whole crew's here. My stomach sank. A full house meant no privacy, no space to process this. It meant eyes on us, questions if we slipped. As if sensing my panic, Nathan spoke up. Aunt Clara, mind if Elliot and I take the kayaks out this morning? Before the chaos? Her eyes lit up. Of course. I'm thrilled you boys are bonding again. You were always two peas in a pod. If only she knew. An hour later, we were paddling through the bay, the kayaks cutting through water smooth as glass. The morning fog clung to the surface, muffling the world. We headed for a hidden cove, a place we'd discovered as kids where the cliffs sheltered a sliver of beach. "This was smart," I said as we dragged the kayaks ashore. The cove was ours alone, the outside world a distant hum. "I needed this," Nathan said, sitting on the sand. "No family, no pretending, just us." He faced me, his expression earnest. "Last night, I meant every word. But I need to know where you stand. Really." I sat beside him, the sand cool beneath me. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "This could hurt everyone we love." "It could hurt us. But I've never felt this connected. Not with anyone. That summer, you were my safe place. And now, knowing you feel it too, it's overwhelming." His shoulders sagged with relief. "I thought maybe you'd wake up and regret it." "Regret?" I laughed softly. "Nathan, I've spent 11 years regretting not talking to you. Not understanding. I don't want to lose you again." He reached for my hand and we sat there, the waves whispering secrets to the shore. "What happens when everyone's here?" he asked. We have to be careful." "We will be," I said. "We keep it between us for now. We're just cousins reconnecting. No one needs to know more." He nodded, but his eyes were troubled. "And if we become something more? What then?" I didn't have an answer. Not yet. The week unfolded like a tightrope walk. The beach house filled with relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles, second cousins twice removed. Meals were loud, chaotic, full of laughter and stories. Nathan and I were careful, our interactions polite but distant in public. We laughed at the right jokes, passed the potato salad, played volleyball on the beach. But stolen moments, brushing hands under the table, a glance across the bonfire, kept the truth alive between us. One night, after a clam bake, the family scattered to bed or card games. Nathan found me on the widow's walk, the ocean a black void below. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, settling beside me. "Too much on my mind?" I leaned against the railing. "You?" "Same." He was close enough that our arms touched. "Elliot, I know we said we'd take it slow, but I can't stop thinking about you." "About what this could be." My breath hitched. "I know, but we're playing with fire." "I don't care." His voice was fierce. "I've spent my life being careful, hiding. I don't want to hide from you." Before I could respond, he kissed me. It was soft, tentative, then deepening with 11 years of longing. The world fell away. There was only him, the salt on his lips, the warmth of his hand on my neck. When we pulled apart, my heart was a drumbeat. "This is real," he whispered. "Whatever happens, this is real." The reunion ended, and we parted with a promise to talk, to figure it out. Back in my apartment in Portland, Nathan's text lit up my phone. Memories of the cove, plans for a weekend trip, questions about what we were. The family noticed nothing, chalking up our closeness to rekindling cousin bonds. But we knew the truth. We met in secret, a coffee shop 2 towns over, a hike in Acadia where no one knew our names. Each meeting was a step deeper into uncharted waters. We talked about the logistics, the family, the judgment, the legality. First cousins could marry in Maine, but the stigma was another matter. We talked about the ethics, the love that defied labels, the fear of losing everyone. One night, over takeout in my tiny apartment, Nathan said, "I don't have answers. But I know I love you. Not just as a cousin, not just as a memory. As you," tears blurred my vision. "I love you too. And I'm scared, but I'm done running." We decided to take it 1 year. 1 year to explore this, to see if it could withstand the weight of the world. We'd be discreet, protect the family, but we'd stop denying ourselves. Therapy helped, separate sessions, then joint ones to navigate the complexity. We leaned on each other, rebuilding the friendship we'd lost and forging something new. The secret is still heavy, but it's shared now. It no longer presses alone against my ribs. Nathan and I are a question mark, a possibility, a love that shouldn't. The secret is still heavy, but it's shared now. It no longer presses alone against my ribs. Nathan and I are a question mark, a possibility, a love that shouldn't exist but does. And for the first time in 11 years, I'm not afraid to find out what it means. 10 years is a long time to carry a secret, and maybe we owe it to ourselves to understand what this is. That running away last time didn't make it go away. I met her eyes across the flickering campfire, the crackle of burning pine logs filling the silence between us. "I'm thinking I don't want to lose you again," I said, my voice barely above the whisper of the wind through the towering redwoods. Relief softened her sharp features, the glow of the flames dancing in her dark eyes. "So where does that leave us?" she asked, her tone measured but hopeful. "Honest question. What are you hoping for here? Because we need to be realistic. We can't be open about this. We can't tell anyone in our circle. This would have to stay between us." I nodded, my heart pounding against my ribs. "I know, I've thought about it. Part of me hates the idea of hiding, of pretending we're just colleagues. But the other part?" I leaned closer, the rough bark of the log we sat on pressing into my palms. "The other part thinks some connections are worth protecting, that not every bond needs to be shouted to the world to be real." Bond. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Wasn't that what this was, or what it could be? Her vulnerability was raw, breathtaking. "Lila," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if this will work or if we'll realize we're better as friends. But I need to try. I've spent too long wondering what if." A barn owl hooted in the distance, its call echoing through the forest, and I took it as a sign. The wilderness doesn't judge. It doesn't care about human rules or complications. It simply exists. "Okay," I said, my decision crystallizing like dew on the morning grass. "We try, carefully, privately, but honestly. We figure out what this is without rushing, without pressure. And if it doesn't work, we promise to still be us, to not let this break what we've always had. And if it does work," I smiled, despite the fear twisting in my gut, "we'll face that when we get there." Lila reached across the space between us, her fingers brushing my cheek. Her touch was warm, electric, and it sent a shiver down my spine. "Can I kiss you?" she asked, her voice soft as the rustle of leaves. "I've been wanting to since last night, but I needed to know we were on the same page." I answered by closing the distance, my lips finding hers in the flickering firelight. The world tilted, the forest fading into a blur of shadow and warmth. Her kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deeper as a decade of unspoken longing poured out. It wasn't like the clumsy, curious kisses we'd shared at 15 sneaking away during that summer art camp. This was adult desire, tempered with a fierce, familiar affection. Her hand tangled in my hair, and I gripped her jacket to steady myself, the fire's heat nothing compared to the spark between us. When we pulled apart, both breathless, she pressed her forehead to mine. "That," she whispered, "was 10 years in the making." I laughed, dizzy with joy and terror. "We should probably head back to the cabins before someone notices we're gone." "Probably," she agreed, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Lila," I said, pulling back to meet her gaze. "Thank you for giving this a chance. For giving us a chance." The rest of the weekend passed in a whirlwind of workshop sessions and old friendships rekindled. The Northern California Redwood Retreat was an annual gathering for the artists collective we'd both joined as teens, a place where creatives came to paint, write, and reconnect. My mentor, Clara, arrived first, enveloping me in a hug and peppering me with questions about my latest novel. I caught Lila's eye over Clara's shoulder as she squeezed me tight, and the secret smile Lila sent me warmed me from the inside out. Lila's older sister, Naomi, arrived that evening along with their parents, both renowned sculptors in the collective. I wondered if they knew Lila had recently come out as bisexual, if they'd grappled with it. But watching them laugh with her, their pride evident, I felt a wave of gratitude. Dinner was a lively affair in the communal hall, long tables groaning under platters of roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and local wine. The room buzzed with stories and laughter, voices overlapping like brushstrokes on a canvas. Lila sat across from me, and every time our eyes met, a silent promise passed between us, making the world fade just a little. Evan, Naomi said, pulling my attention back. Clara tells me you're publishing your second book. That's incredible. Do you love the process? I do, I said, grinning. It's grueling, but there's nothing like watching a story come alive. Seeing readers connect with the characters. Lila's the same with her paintings, Evan. Another artist chimed in, his voice warm. She sees the soul in everything. It's one of her gifts. The table quieted for a moment, everyone absorbing the affection in his tone. Clara glanced between us, a faint curiosity in her eyes. It's wonderful to see you two picking up where you left off, she said. You were inseparable as kids. Glanced between us, a faint curiosity in her eyes. It's wonderful to see you two picking up where you left off, she said. You were inseparable as kids. We were, I said, keeping my voice light. It's good to reconnect. The collective's elder, Miriam, chose that moment to launch into a tale about a disastrous pottery workshop from years ago, and the attention mercifully shifted. Later, after the dishes were cleared and the group gathered under the stars for music and storytelling, Lila tilted her head toward the trail leading to the old studio. I understood instantly, our old rhythm snapping back like it had never left. We slipped away into the cool night, the scent of redwoods and damp earth enveloping us. Inside the studio, moonlight spilled through the skylight, casting silver patterns across the paint-splattered floor. Lila closed the door, and suddenly we were in our own universe, free from the collective's watchful eyes. This is reckless, I murmured as she stepped closer. Utterly mad, she agreed, her hands finding my waist. But I can't stop thinking about that kiss. We're supposed to be taking this slow. Is this slow? Her lips grazed mine, teasing. I answered by pulling her closer, the kiss deepening until the world spun. Her fingers slipped under my sweater, warm against my skin, and I gasped into her mouth. This was thrilling, forbidden, everything I'd buried for a decade. We pressed against the studio wall, hands exploring but staying within the bounds of restraint. Every touch was electric, every breath a promise. We should get back, Lila whispered against my neck, though her hands didn't stop. Probably, I said, tilting my head to give her better access. 10 more minutes? She laughed, the sound humming against my skin. 10. But 10 became 20, 30, until the distant sound of someone calling our names yanked us apart. We smoothed our clothes, steadied our breathing, and emerged into the night, trying to look casual. Naomi was by the fire pit, smiling as she spotted us. There you are. We're starting a song circle. Come join. As we walked back, Lila's fingers brushed mine in the darkness, a fleeting touch that sent heat coursing through me. This was our secret, our private rebellion against the impossible. And for now, it was enough. The fire pit glowed warmly, sparks spiraling into the starlit sky. The collective had arranged stumps in a circle, and someone had brought out guitars and cacao for a late-night ritual. It was perfect, grounding, and would have been wholly comfortable if I weren't hyper-aware of Lila 2 seats away, her presence a quiet hum in my veins. So, Lila, Clara said, leaning forward, Naomi mentioned you've been exploring your identity lately. How's that journey going? I tensed, but Lila handled it with poise. Yeah, I came out as bisexual a few months ago. It's been liberating, honestly. I'm finally living my truth. A hush fell, and I held my breath waiting for the group's reaction. The collective was progressive, but coming out was still a vulnerable act. That's brave, my mentor Jonah said. It takes guts to live authentically. Lila's relief was visible, and Naomi reached over to squeeze her hand. We're all proud of you, Naomi said. Then, turning to me, Evan coming out a few years ago made it easier for Lila. Seeing you live openly gave her courage. Clara smiled at me, her eyes warm. You've been a quiet trailblazer, Evan. The conversation shifted, but something had changed. The group acknowledged our shared queer identity, celebrating our bond without knowing its deeper, tangled truth. It was beautiful and bittersweet. As the fire died down and people drifted to their cabins, I found myself alone with Miriam. She'd been quiet all evening, her sharp eyes taking everything in. "Walk me to my cabin?" she asked, linking her arm with mine. On the path, she paused. "You and Lila have rediscovered something special, haven't you?" "We're reconnecting," I said carefully. She studied me, and I swore she saw straight to my soul. "When you were young, you two had a connection that was rare. You saw each other in ways most never do. I always thought it was beautiful." My throat tightened. "Miriam, let me finish," she said gently. "I'm old, Evan. I've seen love take forms the world doesn't always understand. All I'll say is this: life is fleeting. Joy is precious. Protect what matters, but be careful. The world can be cruel to love that defies its rules." Before I could respond, she patted my hand and shuffled off, leaving me reeling. She knew not the details, but the essence. And somehow she was offering her quiet support. I found Lila in the communal kitchen pouring tea. When she saw my face, worry creased her brow. "What's wrong?" "Miriam knows," I whispered. "Not explicitly, but she senses it. Should we be scared?" Lila asked, her voice low. I thought of Miriam's words, her gentle wisdom. "No, I think she's okay with it. She won't say anything." Lila leaned against the counter, processing. "She's always been ahead of her time. She was the first to embrace you when you came out." "Yeah," I said, stepping closer. "She said love is complicated and happiness is rare. I think she's giving us her blessing." "Having one person know makes this real," Lila said softly. "Less like a summer fling and more like something. Does that scare you?" I asked. "Terrifies me," she admitted, her smile trembling. "But the best things usually do." The retreat's final days were a blur of workshops, stolen glances, and secret moments. Lila and I mastered the art of subtle touches, a brush of hands during a group hike, a shared look during a poetry reading, a few stolen kisses in the studio when the coast was clear. But the weekend was ending, and the question of what next hung over us like fog in the redwoods. On the last full day, we slipped away to a hidden meadow, a sea of wildflowers swaying in the breeze. We sat on a weathered blanket, our knees touching. "I've been thinking about after this," Lila said, picking at a daisy. "We live 3 hours apart. It's not impossible," my stomach nodded. We'd dodged this talk, but it was time. "And?" I prompted. She turned to me, taking my hand. "Evan, this week showed me what I've been missing. I don't want to go back to pretending you're just a friend from camp. But this is messy. We're part of the same collective. We can't be open. We'd have to hide at gatherings, lie to people we care about. It's not fair to either of us." Her fingers traced patterns on my palm. "But I'm willing to try if you are, to see where this goes despite everything." I stared at the wildflowers, my heart battling my mind. 3 hours is manageable. Weekends, retreats, excuses about deadlines or inspiration. But Lila, what's the end game? We can't be partners at collective events. We can't build a life everyone sees. We'd always be partly hidden. "I know," she said, her voice steady but pained. "If that's too much, I get it. You've fought to live openly, and I won't ask you to hide from me." That was the crux, wasn't it? I'd clawed my way to authenticity, to loving without shame. But what if the person I wanted was someone the world, our world, wouldn't accept? "Can I tell you something?" I said quietly. When I was struggling to come out, the memory that kept me afloat was you. That summer at 15, when we talked about everything, our fears, our dreams, you made me feel like I wasn't alone. You were my anchor, Lila. You still are. Her eyes glistened. "So what do we do?" I thought of Miriam's words, of a decade of what-ifs, of the way Lila's presence made my world brighter. "We try," I said. "We explore this without letting fear win. We're adults. We choose our own paths, even the hard ones. Even if it means hiding because this is worth it." Lila kissed me then, fierce and certain, and I felt the truth of it in my bones. This wasn't wrong. Complicated, yes. Defiant, absolutely, but not wrong. When we parted, she pressed her forehead to mine. "We're really doing this?" "We're doing this," I said. 3 hours is nothing. We'll make it work. We'll be careful at collective events. "We've had practice," she teased, her smile radiant. "Besides," I added, "Miriam knows, and she's on our side." "That's something." "That's everything," she corrected. "Notes on changes made. Characters. Alex and Marcus, cousins, are now Evan and Lila, former art camp friends and members of an artists' collective. This removes the familial taboo while preserving the forbidden nature of their connection, due to the tight-knit community and professional overlap. Setting. The Lake House family reunion is now a redwood forest artist retreat in Northern California, with cabins, a communal hall, and a studio instead of a boathouse. Relationship. The cousin dynamic is replaced with a deep childhood friendship from summer camp, rekindled as adults. The forbidden element stems from their shared artistic community, where openness could disrupt professional and social ties. Supporting characters. Family members are now mentors, siblings, and collective elders, e.g., Clara, Naomi, Miriam. Grandma Rose becomes Miriam, the wise elder. Events. Canoeing becomes campfire talks and meadow picnics. The boathouse is now the art studio. The bonfire is a fire pit with a song circle. The heron is now a barn owl. Fishing stories become pottery mishaps. Tone and themes. The emotional core, secret love, fear of judgment, the tension between authenticity and protection, and the blessing of an elder remains intact. The sensuality is still restrained and evocative, focusing on longing and connection. This version is just as long, immersive, and emotionally rich, with a fresh narrative that stands on its own while echoing the original's heart. Let me know if you'd like further tweaks or expansions. The lake was called Mirror Water, a name earned from the way it caught the sky and held it like a secret. Elena first saw it when she was 7, trailing behind her Aunt Sophia on a narrow dirt path lined with black-eyed Susans. Sophia had been the family's quiet rebel. Left home at 19, sent postcards from Marrakesh and Reykjavik, returned only for weddings and funerals. That summer she came back with a toddler on her hip and a man no one recognized. The toddler was Liam. The man vanished before the leaves turned, years folded in on themselves. Elena grew into long limbs and a sharper tongue. Liam grew into shoulders that filled doorways and a laugh that started in his chest and ended in everyone else's. They saw each other at Christmas, at baptisms, at the occasional funeral where Sophia wore black sunglasses indoors and told stories no one asked for. They were cousins once removed, close enough for shared blood, distant enough for the family to forget the math. The reunion was Sophia's idea, a sprawling 3-day affair at the old cedar house on Mirror Water's North Shore. She was turning 75 and wanted everyone under one roof before I forget who any of you are. Elena arrived late, city dust still on her boots, and found Liam already there, sleeves rolled high, hauling coolers from the bed of a pickup. He looked up, grinned like he'd been waiting. "Thought you'd bail," he said. "Traffic," she lied. Truth was she'd sat in the driveway 10 minutes, engine running, rehearsing the casual nod she'd give him. 10 years since the last time they'd spoken more than pleasantries. 10 years since the night she was 17 and he was 19, and the bonfire had burned low and he'd said, "You ever think the stars look closer here?" And she'd answered, "Only when you're standing next to me." And then they'd both pretended it was the smoke talking. Inside, the house smelled of lemon polish and fried perch. Children shrieked through hallways. Uncles argued over horseshoes. Elena claimed the smallest bedroom under the eaves, window cracked to let in the sound of water slapping dock pilings. She unpacked one dress, one swimsuit, one lie. I'm fine seeing him. The first evening was a blur of potato salad and mosquito coils. Liam found her on the porch steps, 2 bottles of something cold dangling from his fingers. "Peace offering," he said. "For whatever I did when we were kids." "You didn't do anything." She took the bottle. Their knuckles brushed. Neither flinched. They talked until the sky went indigo. He was a carpenter now, building tiny houses on wheels. She designed album covers for bands no one had heard of yet. He asked about Brooklyn. She asked about the scar on his forearm. Table saw, rookie mistake. When the porch light flickered on, automatic and unforgiving, they both stood at the same time like teenagers caught past curfew. The next morning, Elena woke before the house. She padded to the kitchen in bare feet, started coffee, and found Liam already there, staring into the pot like it owed him money. Couldn't sleep? She asked. Thinking about the dock, he said. Needs new planks. Sophia asked me to fix it before I leave. They drank coffee on the warped boards in question, legs dangling over water the color of tarnished silver. A loon called somewhere out of sight. Liam skipped a stone. It bounced 4 times before surrendering. I used to practice that for hours, he said. Wanted to impress you. You succeeded, he laughed, surprised. I was a kid. So was I. Silence settled, companionable until it wasn't. Elena felt the years between them collapse like a telescope. She set her mug down. Liam. Elena. They spoke at the same time, stopped, laughed again, this time nervous. He tried again. I'm not good at this. Whatever this is. Me neither. He looked at her then, really looked, the way people do when they're trying to read Braille with their eyes. I missed you, he said. Not cousin missed, like missed. The confession hung between them, fragile as dragonfly wings. Elena's pulse thudded in her ears. She could list a dozen reasons to stand up and walk away, blood, gossip, the way Aunt Claudia's mouth would prune. Instead, she said, I missed you too. And the dock creaked beneath them like it approved. They spent the rest of the morning replacing boards, working side by side, passing nails without looking. Their fingers learned the shape of each other's again. Calluses, knuckles, the small scar on her thumb from a box cutter in college. When the last screw was set, Liam tested the plank with his weight. It held, solid, he said. Like us? She asked, half joking. He didn't laugh. Maybe. That afternoon the sky cracked open, rain drumming the tin roof like thrown gravel. Everyone retreated indoors except Elena and Liam, who took refuge in the boathouse that smelled of mildew and old life jackets. They sat on an overturned canoe, knees almost touching. I keep thinking about timelines, Elena said. If Sophia hadn't brought you home that summer, if I'd gone to art school in Chicago instead of New York, if my mom hadn't left me on a doorstep with a note that said, his name is Liam, he likes dinosaurs. Elena turned. She really did that? Sophia's version is kinder. Says mom was finding herself. I stopped asking. He picked at a splinter. Point is, we're here, now, and I don't want to keep pretending I don't notice you. Thunder rolled overhead. Elena's heart answered it. She reached for his hand. He let her take it. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. They kissed then, tentative, like testing thin ice. It held. The storm moved on, leaving the air washed clean. They stayed in the boathouse until the light slanted gold again, trading small truths the way children trade baseball cards. Dinner was chaos. 23 people. 1 turkey, 2 vegetarians, 3 toddlers who believed forks were weapons. Elena and Liam sat across from each other, passing bowls, ankles brushing under the table. No one noticed. Or maybe everyone did and said nothing. Sophia caught Elena's eye once and lifted an eyebrow so slightly it might have been a twitch. Later, when the dishes were done and the kids finally asleep, Sophia found Elena on the dock. The older woman carried 2 slices of blueberry pie balanced on paper plates. Thought you might need sugar, she said, settling beside her. Moonlight silvered the water. Somewhere a fish jumped. They ate in silence until Sophia said, He's a good man, Liam. I know. Complicated, though. Family. Elena's throat tightened. You see everything, don't you? Old eyes, young heart. Sophia licked blueberry from her thumb. Your great-grandmother eloped with a Catholic during the Troubles. Family disowned her for a decade. She used to say love doesn't ask permission, but it does ask courage. Elena stared at the dark water. What if they never understand? Then you'll have each other and me. And this ridiculous house. Sophia nudged her shoulder. I'm updating my will, by the way. Mirror water goes to you and Liam joint tenancy. Figured you'd keep it standing. Elena's pie fork clattered to the dock. Sophia, hush, I'm not dead yet. Just practical. She stood, brushed crumbs from her skirt. Love loud, Elena, but love smart. The world's got sharp edges. She left Elena alone with the ring. Simple gold, worn thin, engraved with tiny fish. Sophia's husband had fished these waters until the day he drowned trying to save a dog that wasn't even his. The ring had been on his finger when they pulled him out. Elena slipped it on. It fit. The last full day dawned humid and bright. Elena and Liam stole an hour before breakfast, paddling the old canoe to the middle of the lake. Dragonflies skimmed the surface. Their reflections shattered and reformed. We should talk logistics, Liam said, resting his paddle. I'm in Portland. You're in Brooklyn. That's a lot of sky miles. I have frequent flyer guilt. He smiled. I could build a tiny house on wheels. Park it in your alley. Neighbors would love that. They drifted, planning in half sentences, alternate weekends, coded texts, holidays navigated like minefields. Beneath the practicalities ran a current of wonder. This was happening, they were choosing it. Back at the house, the family packed coolers and folded lawn chairs. Elena's mother hugged her too tight. You look different, she said. Lighter. Clean lake air? Elena lied. Liam's ride was leaving. His aunt needed the truck. They met behind the woodshed, out of sight. 3 weeks, he said. I'll come to you. Bring tools. My bookshelves are drunk. He kissed her then, quick and fierce, tasting of coffee and pine. No more hiding after this summer, he promised. We figure it out, but we don't hide. She believed him. The city swallowed her. Subways, sirens, the smell of hot pretzels and exhaust. Liam's texts arrived like postcards, a photo of a half-built cabinet, a voice memo of sawdust and classic rock. They talked every night, voices low so roommates wouldn't hear. On the third Friday, he showed up at her apartment with a duffel and a bottle of wine. They cooked pasta, burned the garlic, laughed until the neighbors banged on the wall. Later, tangled in her narrow bed, he traced the fish ring with his thumb. Tell me about the will, he said. Sophia's giving us the lake house. Says it's where we belong. He was quiet so long she thought he'd fallen asleep. Then, I want to build you something there. A studio with north light. You can design album covers while I plane boards and pretend I'm not distracted by your legs. She kissed the hollow of his throat. Deal. Thanksgiving was the first test. Sophia claimed fatigue and invited only them. Turkey for 3, stuffing with oysters because she was feeling nautical. They arrived separately, left together. Snow dusted the pines. Inside, the fireplace crackled. Sophia toasted with cider. To secrets that stop being secrets, she said. Liam raised his glass. To family that expands when you least expect it. Elena's eyes stung. She wore the fish ring openly now. No one was there to question it. Spring brought dogwood and the first warm rain. They met at Mirror Water to open the house. Windows stuck from winter. Mice evicted with brooms and curses. Liam built bookshelves while Elena painted the porch swing the color of oxidized copper. At night they made love with the windows open. Loons their only audience. Sophia's 80th birthday fell on a Saturday in July. The family descended. Coolers, casseroles, children with sparklers. Elena and Liam moved through the crowd like actors who'd forgotten their lines. They smiled, passed deviled eggs, kept 3 feet of careful distance. That evening, Sophia gathered everyone on the lawn for cake. Fireflies blinked on and off like faulty Christmas lights. After the candles, 80 of them, a fire hazard, she raised her glass. I've lived long enough to know love doesn't read the rule book, she said. It shows up barefoot, demanding breakfast. Some of you have found it in ordinary ways. some in ways that would make your grandparents clutch pearls. All of it counts. She looked directly at Elena and Liam. Be brave, be kind. The rest is noise. The next morning, over coffee strong enough to wake the dead, Liam said, I'm done pretending. Elena's heart ricocheted. Here, now? Here, now. They asked the family to stay an extra hour. Chairs scraped, toddlers were bribed with cookies. Sophia took her customary seat by the window, hands folded like she'd rehearsed this. Liam spoke first. Elena and I have something to tell you. Elena picked up the thread. We're together, romantically, have been for almost 2 years. The silence was a held breath. Elena watched her mother's face cycle through confusion, memory, realization. Her father's jaw worked soundlessly. Liam continued. We know it's complicated. We know the family tree gets tangled. But we're asking you to see us, not the labels, not the gossip. Just us, Sophia stood. I've known since the night of the thunderstorm. Watch them fall in love the way you watch a seed split open. Slow, inevitable, beautiful. They've been careful out of respect. Now they're asking for the same in return. Reactions came in waves. Shock, questions. A cousin who muttered incest and was hushed by 3 others. Elena's mother cried, not the pretty kind. Her father asked practical things. Health insurance, holidays, what to tell the neighbors. Liam answered calmly, hand steady on Elena's knee. When the last car crunched down the gravel drive, the 3 of them, Elena, Liam, Sophia, sat on the porch steps. The lake reflected a sky the color of cantaloupe. You okay? Liam asked. Elena exhaled. Terrified, free, Sophia patted her knee. Love's a verb, kids. Keep choosing it. Years later, the house at Mirrorwater still stood, porch swing repainted every spring. Elena's studio had north light and a skylight Liam installed himself. They hosted Thanksgiving for whoever showed up, some years 20, some years 3. The fish ring lived on a chain around Elena's neck when her hands were covered in paint. One August evening, fireflies thick as glitter, Liam found her on the dock skipping stones. He carried 2 bottles of something cold. Remember when I said I wanted to impress you? He asked. You still do. He set the bottles down, took her hands. Marry me here. Next summer. Sophia can officiate. She got ordained online for a laugh. We'll keep it small, just the people who stayed. Elena looked at the water, at the house glowing behind them, at the man who'd been a boy skipping stones to catch her eye. Yes, she said, but only if we serve blueberry pie. They kissed as the loons called, the lake holding their reflection steady. Love had asked for courage. They'd given it. The rest, as Sophia liked to say, was noise.